Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach, 20 and 24. A lie is a foul blot in a man, yet it is continually in the mouth of the untaught. A thief is better than a man that is accustomed to lie, but they both shall have destruction to heritage. The disposition of a liar is dishonorable, and his shame is ever with him. Kol halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakaha Kodash. Double honors into the apostles, double honors into the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000, and the scattered elect Israelites that are scattered among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black thing only. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. And this is Sirach also, the 10th chapter, the 8th verse. And it reads, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Now, while doing this lesson, this is a prelude to the lesson that you see on the screen. I'm going to definitely go into this. I mention this all the time in lessons. I mention this history about how, let me close this door. I mentioned this in teachings and edification on how Asia, and how it was divided up. First, a portion of it was called Europe, so that's where we get the term Eurasia, and then another portion of it was called the Middle East. That's where you get. So basically, they've divided Asia up into three parts and made, Middle East a race or a doctrine, and it's a direction. It's a part of Asia, always has been. And Asia, as you can see on the screen, these are images of the Minoans, all right? And these are Japhetic people. Japhet was not so-called white. These are the people that were conquered and removed from their land by Alexander of Macedon, the Edomites. All right, and Alexander was an Amalekite to boot. On top of all that, he was an Amalekite. So we're gonna dive into this lesson, but I had to show you this just to just to prove how much of a liar Edom is, and his shame is ever upon him, because all his lies are coming to naught. So we're just gonna let that be the thumbnail, the background, because there are more images below of different Eurasian cultures that were of a melanated, with woolly hair and all that, and how some of the Babylonians and some of the Israelites who were in captivity in these places. When you see certain imagery and statues that are made a certain way with the matter of fact, I just got to show you now that I'm saying it. Let's just go down. When you see statues that are made like this, all right, that's depicting a woolly beard or woolly hair. With, and I have braids in my hair right now. Those aren't locks. Those are locks, but it's in braided hair locks, not dreadlocks, okay? Here's another one, all right? So I'm not going into it, but, definitely going to show that. And so Eurasian or Asian invasion, see, because it wasn't called Eurasia. The Bible doesn't mention Europe. And the Bible is the most accurate history book ever written. All right, so let's show you that receipt real quick before we go any further into the actual lesson, which is about the Israelites being sold into slavery, being destroyed. And then they built up in captivity and actually surpassed Esau in his own kingdom. And Esau with his hatred and jealousy and racism, destroyed everything that they built, claimed and put his name on all their inventions and all their helps that built up America, and belittled them and told and set policy in place to keep them oppressed. On top of that, so this is an extra wicked individual. But let's go to the evidence. And here, love bringing this out. You see that? Eurasian invasion. Eurasian. All right. Asia, Europe, Asia, and since the compound Eurasia of or pertaining to Eurasia to Europe and Asia considered as forming in reality one continent. So this whole Middle East, Europe, that's some made up shit that they made up to fit their racist narrative. Just like they have when you come to the West, the people, and that's a word for it, which I can't remember right now. But when you come to the West, the melanated people of North Africa and of Western Asia, all right, I have the Western Asian map right here, and the so-called Middle East sits in, but so does Europe. But see, on this map of Asia, see, this is an Asian map. The so-called Middle East is a part of it, okay? So is Europe. Just because you paint it yellow, different. It's the same continent, all right? But people who come from who come from North Africa and come from the portion of Asia that they call the Middle East are classified as white, as Caucasian. So they take these melanated people and call them Caucasians and fabricate numbers. Why? That's part of that racist, hateful policy that the so-called white man uses to elevate his numbers. Because as of recently, you know, I watched a couple videos where they were, you know, bragging about winning a race war and all this other mess. Because, you know, this false lie about so-called blacks being 14%. In actuality, blacks are probably more like 25 or 30%. It's way more of them than what they say. And also you have to remember that the white numbers are what's the word that I'm looking for? Inflated, because they have all these melanated people from different parts of the world, from North Africa and Western Asia, that they're also labeling as white. So there's way less white people in America than they say, and there's way more so-called black people in America than what they say. Not that those numbers matter anything, because the Lord has already prophesied that Esau Edom is going to lose this race battle, this upcoming race war. This is the time of the fall of Esau Edom. All right, because he thinks he's only going to be at it with so-called black people. Everyone melanated is coming for him. He's going to realize that he's greatly despised, greatly hated, and it's not going to end well for him. All right, but I want to go in here and get to this part of the lesson right here. Okay, because they made their money and their wealth off the subjugation, the slavery of Jacob, and not just the so-called Negro, but also the natives of the Americas as well. The slave trade started in 1492, the fall of Portugal and Spain, when the Morenos, the crypto Judeans, the real Israelites that were in Portugal and Spain, who the Moors were a part of that number, even though they were following Islam. But when the Moors, the Morenos, the crypto Jews fell, many of them also were carted into slavery, and then they immediately came to the Americas and began to transport the natives of America back to Seville, Spain. Seville, Spain became the reverse slave capital of the world. So the slave trade started in 1492. And they talk about the 1619 is because that's when, after the 100+ years of slavery of the natives of the Americas, the melanated, who are also of Negroid descent. All right, look at the definition of, matter of fact, I'll just get it now that I said it. But the definition of ham in the Young's Dictionary Bible. Let's get the Young's. Let me grab it off the shelf behind me, Salakia. Okay. So this is the Young's Dictionary Bible that I'm holding in my hand right here. Let's put some light on it. Okay, and I'm going to read the definition of ham because I spoke about the Negroid races. So let's go to the definition of ham. Yeah, this book is brutal cuts to the fraud that is westernized Christianity, which even the rabbis have identified as Edom or Esav, all right, as they say. But on page 255 and 256, because the definition is at the bottom corner of the book, so it goes over onto the next page. But this is the definition of ham. You can screenshot it. It says Ham, a son of Noah and father of Cush, Put, and Canaan. Those are the Africans, Hamites, who were not so-called white. All right. See further on these four, while they may have all been dark-skinned. No, they weren't. They were definitely dark-skinned. It says they were not the, let's flip to the next page. Top of the next page. Definition continues, screenshot. All right. Forefathers of the Negroid races. That's the 12 tribes. All right. But rather the peoples associated with Egypt and the north continent of Africa. The Egyptians thought of Canaan as one of their provinces, even into the very latter times. So when you go all the way up, we were just looking at the map of the so-called Middle East, which is Western Asia. This is the Asian map. All right. Maybe I will leave the light on. Okay. So as you see Egypt there, when you go up north, up above it, all right, into Syria and Jordan and Israel, Iraq, the Hamites, the Canaanites were all in that area because Israel went in there and went wars with them all the way into Iran. So the Hamites went all up into Asia. You get that term Black Asiatic man because it's truth to it. You're looking at it even on the screen at these Minoans, even though these Minoans were a different race of people, same as the Africans were a different set of dark people. So you have to understand the world was all dark. All of Asia was tawny or swarthy, all right? As Ben Franklin wrote in his letter in 1751. He spoke the truth when he said that, all right? But here we go. There's the Zondervan's dictionary breakdown, all right? Ham, the youngest son of Noah, the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. So there it is. So the Negroid races, as we read in the Young's Dictionary Bible, is showing you with the Shemites, with Shem, and then you have the chocolate Africans, Ham, and they're both different shades. One looks like milk chocolate, one looks like dark chocolate. All right. Neither of them are black. Chocolate is brown. So all that black and all these false titles were created. That goes back to that first scripture I read, by these liars, by these controllers of the narrative, these Edomites. Okay. So now finally that all that has been said, let's play this short clip on the slave trade. sound at? What the hell? And then something. It's like the sound has disappeared. Oh, I'm going to try this one more time. I have no idea why the sound is not playing.
Street.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Wall Street. If you think Wall Street is just about stocks and bonds, think again. Its roots are far darker and more sinister. In 1711, New York City officials decreed that all Negro slaves for hire be traded at the market house on Wall Street. Yes, Wall Street started as a slave market.
It said for
US
hire.
banks didn't just fund plantations, they used enslaved people as collateral for mortgages, turning humans into commodities. Just before the Civil War, nearly 4 million slaves in the US had an estimated market value of over $3 billion. Major corporations thrived off slavery through loans, collateral ownership, and even slave insurance policies. Slave owners were paid for lost property, while the enslaved received nothing. And even after abolition in 1865, African Americans faced peonage, convict leasing, and chain gangs, practices that forced them into labor until the 1940s. The 13th Amendment ended slavery, but with a loophole. It allowed forced labor for those convicted of crimes. So next time you think of Wall Street, remember its true origin. A history built on exploitation and suffering.
And that's
in
true.
1910,
And then,
black farmers
and they set up laws to keep these people oppressed even after the slavery was over. And then they try to lie about it when confronted with it and called it CRT, critical race theory, when in fact it's critical race historical facts. This is their history. This is who they are. A hateful, murderous people that lie continually. Okay?
owned over.
So let's go and show one more.
They tell black people to just work harder. But what happens when we do? They burn it to the ground. Black Wall Street wasn't the only one. There were over 100 thriving black towns in America. Towns like Rosewood, Oscarville, and Freedmanstown, where black people built their own businesses, banks, and schools, real generational wealth. But guess what happened? They were burned, bombed, and flooded to erase them. Lake Lanier, it was a black town before the government drowned it.
Wow.
Entire communities were stolen using shady laws like eminent domain. And the KKK, they straight up ran black families out of their homes. So next time someone says, why don't black people just build wealth? Tell them, we did, and they destroyed it.
So the so-called black man, all right, in America, built wealth for himself and his working laborers, made America the wealthiest and mightiest country that the world has ever seen. And any person to think that place will not be written in the Bible, you're out of your damn mind. And they set policy into place which use and abuse these people even still to this day. All right, they manipulate the law of the land to keep melanated people especially exploited within their prison system. And it tells you that matter of fact, it's because the Jewish people, JOOs, they're not the ones that fill the prison houses. They're the ones that wrote the policy to keep for the majority of the policy that keeps the prison houses filled. All right, it keeps the so-called Negro at a disadvantage in the land that he made all this wealth for everyone else, which is also part of the prophecies of the curses that will befall them. But this is Isaiah 42 and 22. And it reads, But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore. See, so they don't want to restore and give them back anything that they built. They took their towns, and I've said so many times, when they destroyed these over 100 so-called black settlements that were doing better than the white settlements around them, and out of jealousy and hatred and envy, they collected up. That means that the law enforcement, the lawyers, the judges, the governors, everybody was involved in it, because they wrote up documentation and paperwork when they destroyed these towns, so that that land could become part of the state and a part of individuals who have them now, who live in those houses, who live on those lands that were confiscated during the destruction of them, as the people were murdered and driven out, and no justice for them. This is the true essence and the true being of Esau Edom, the so-called white man. This is the history that he wants to have cognitive delusionalism. All right, denialism is the word. Cognitive denialism. They're very cognitive of denying factual history of what they really did, because they don't want to be responsible and have to pay for it. And then they'll, constantly talk about, well, I wasn't there and I didn't do it, or my family didn't. No, you and your kind benefited from this, whether you had anything to do with it or not. You're not surrendering back any of those lands, any of those properties that were passed to you that doesn't belong to you. As a matter of fact, there's no place in America that belongs to you, because all of it is stolen land. Because what you didn't steal and take from the Negroes, you stole from the native Negroes, so-called, right? The Negroid races, the Israelites, you stole from them the land itself. All right, so you're just guilty on all points. So let's go back to that. And then you lie about it. Like the cowards that you are, you lie about it. All right. Back to that. Ecclesiasticus 20 and 24. And it reads, because what do? When someone stands up against you, against your oppression, you label them the T word. You label them a troublemaker. You label them a criminal, a revolutionary. All right. When someone stands up against your oppression or against your lies. Ecclesiastes 20 and 24. A lie is a foul blot in a man, yet is it continually in his mouth of the untaught. All right. And then you teach those lies to your children. Or when the truth comes out, you want to call it critical race theory and disregard the truth that's behind the message. All right. You don't want your child taught that, the house that he's inheriting, he shouldn't be inheriting. It doesn't belong to him. That when you find out that your great-granddaddy or your great-great-granddaddy murdered the people that lived there and stole the land from them, and that the law enforcement, the judges, the cops, the sheriffs, the lawyers, the governors helped them to do it. You're guilty. A thief is better than a man that is accustomed to a lie, but they both shall have destruction to heritage. So their heritage, it's all going to come back on them, and shame will cover you. The disposition of a liar is dishonorable, and his shame is ever with him. And that's what they're shamed. Right? They're ashamed of the shameful spewing that is upon their glory. This is Habakkuk 2 and 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing upon thy glory. And the fact that was shaming you, shaming your false glory, your lies, your false victory, making you give back that first place trophy that you never earned. You got a problem with it now. All right? And quite frankly, we don't give a F of how you feel. This will be the last scripture, 2 Ezra 6 and 7, one of my favorites. And it reads, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome. And the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared." Because so-called white history has been nothing but lies. So I tell you this, Esau Edom, so-called white man, you won't have any straps to pull your boots up by. You are fucked. It's just a matter of time. Call halal Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Wakahak Wadash Kwam Yasharala Abad Babal.